Earlier in our newscast, I spoke with Howard Gutman, a former U.S. ambassador to the Kingdom of Belgium under the Obama administration. And now we're hearing from the other side. We're joined by Joe Grogan. Once again, he served as the assistant to President Donald Trump and director of the Domestic Policy Council. Mr. Grogan, thank you for your time tonight on NewsNation.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
As I did with Ambassador Gutman, I want to talk about four issues that President Biden has put forth as priorities in his administration moving forward. And I think starting first and foremost with COVID-19 and economic relief, the $1.9 trillion COVID package. And in order to pass the Senate, 10 Republicans would have to defect. Of course, that is going to be a difficult task for the president ahead. But the other side will say here, some Democrats will bolster their case saying, we have to focus on the jobs that have been lost from so many Americans, the cases of COVID still on the rise. So where is the compromise to get a president's plan pushed through and really adequately address COVID relief?
Well, thank you. I think it's important to take a step back for 1 second and look at the President Biden's speech that he gave, his inaugural address, in which he really called for unity. I think there are a number of people on Capitol Hill who welcomed that message and appreciated the fact that it was his overarching theme today. And they will try and give him much of what he's looking for to begin with. He didn't call for immediate tax increases, which would have been kicking off a huge fight. I mean, remember, spending money is something that Republicans and Democrats in Congress love to do. It's a lot easier to spend it than it is to pay for it. And here they are just being asked to write a huge check that our children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren will have to pay down. So while he may not get 1.9 trillion, he will get a significant amount of money. And members of Capitol Hill, who I've spoken to since this plan was announced a few days ago, expect him to get a number of his initiatives passed with bipartisan support. Is it 1 trillion? Is it 900 billion? Is it 1.2 trillion? Unclear right now, but he will get a lot of the spending that he's asked for in this package.
Let's talk about immigration reform and an 8-year path to citizenship for immigrants, which President Biden supports. Those in support of that plan would say that key sectors of the U.S. economy rely on immigration, from agriculture to technology. What are some of the common ground solutions to push this policy forward?
Well, you're right. I do think there are a lot of businesses that would like to see a greater influx of workers from overseas, a greater number of visas required, and a more rational immigration system, as well as plenty of Americans who would like to see people who were brought here as children and had no say in the matter to remain. So there's a lot of areas for common ground on increasing immigration and providing more visas, more opportunities for people to be employed and for businesses to find the best talent, including internationally. But if there aren't some efforts on the part of President Biden to think through rationalization legally and just doing, if he wants to do everything by regulation or executive order, I think he's going to get a lot of pushback. There is support for a lot of immigration reforms, but it is extremely complicated to do. The Trump administration put forth a comprehensive immigration reform that took over a year to develop. It involved a great deal of study of other nations' plans. It was not simple. Just understanding all the different programs in which people enter the United States, all the different visa programs, the different quotas. The law is a mess on immigration, and it's going to be very difficult to do something comprehensively. And I doubt you'll see a big bill in the next 12 months because they wouldn't be able to throw one together. But you could see some increase in visa numbers in relatively quick order. But of course, we do have the coronavirus pandemic still raging, and the Biden administration has announced that they're not going to proceed with the Trump administration's plan to allow international travel to resume with a negative COVID test. So they're already being aggressive on international travel, in some respects more aggressive than President Trump was.
Mr. Grogan, I do want to get to two more issues very quickly. So if you don't mind, be brief in your comments here, but I do want to get your thoughts. First on the issue of abortion, and Planned Parenthood calls President Biden and Vice President Harris, quote, champions of this issue. They say the changes need to happen in the first 100 days. How do you see this issue playing out in a Biden administration?
Well, Joe Biden used to be a pro-life Democrat. Of course, there aren't any more left. The last pro-life Democrat in the House of Representatives was taken out this cycle with a primary challenge from somebody that the quote-unquote squad supported. So he has come around to a pro-choice view, which is the mainstream of the Democratic Party. He went to Mass today at St. Matthew's Cathedral, which is a striking reminder of his Catholic faith. But I expect him to move aggressively to overturn the Mexico City policy, which President Trump put in place to prevent American tax dollars going overseas to abortion providers, and every other regulatory action that the administration pursued to advance the cause of life and the pro-life community. And some of it will take time, but he will move aggressively on that front. There's no question.
Finally, the issue of climate change. We have heard that Joe Biden wants to rejoin the 2015 Paris Agreement on climate change. This is a major issue moving forward. Proponents of that plan will point to warming oceans, shrinking ice sheets, rising sea levels, all existential threats, they say. How do you address those concerns of Americans and the world moving forward?
Well, going back to the president's comments today about unity, it's all well and good to talk about unity as far as unity around a scientific principle or unity around a scientific study. But he's announced that the Keystone Pipeline is going to be canceled. And that's where unity breaks down, because a lot of jobs will be destroyed by that. He's got to call Justin Trudeau. It's going to tomorrow. Prime Minister of Canada, that's our closest ally in the world, and Canada will be very upset by that. All these policies that they will be pursuing to blunt climate change are going to have real world consequences for people, and holding that together and convincing the American people that it's in their best interests to pursue these policies is going to be a very difficult challenge, because a lot of Americans could go along with a climate change agenda if it didn't affect their job or the cost of their fuel or the size of the car that they want to drive. He's got a big sales job ahead of him on their climate change agenda.
We covered a lot of ground there, Joe Grogan, and some complex issues ahead for this president, his administration, and both houses of Congress. We appreciate your time. You served as the assistant to President Trump and director of Domestic Policy Council. And we also heard from Howard Gutman, the ambassador to Belgium during the Obama administration. We appreciate both of your perspectives tonight. Thank you again.
Thank you.